Death blow. Death blow. Death blow.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Death Blow Podcast. Subscribe, like and share and click on the bell to receive the notification about my channel, Spotify and Apple Podcast for the audio version, and Instagram, Facebook and TikTok for more updates and news. I present you right now the second part of my interview with Ruffneck of Oz. Be ready to hear the truth about those days in Oz. Stay tuned for the rest of the interview. Now let's go forward about a Scandinavian metal attack that featured bands like Spitfire, Trash and 09. What kind of people were they? Did you ever have any contact with them?
Some of not. The point is this, that when we was doing Fire in the Brain, then we was starting discussing that we moved to the Stockholm. And we was doing this. I was moving first and the rest of the boys coming. And I was speaking, as I told, I was really good friend with the Börje Forsberg in that time. So he was planning that he was doing the album with the Trash, and then he make a contact with this 09 from Finland, because it was this Finnish company, as I told, who was buying the license contract from the Börje. So he was thinking that, okay, it's maybe good idea. He was speaking with me that it's maybe good idea if he making this kind of Scandinavian attack, this kind of where is several bands, because no band is right now ready to go studio and make the album. So we're getting things running. So that's the point where he collecting. I mean, why he get these things? Zero now is coming from Finland because of Oz. They was having a contract with this Finnish Finlevy, and of course they was sending messages to the Börje that how about this band. But Börje was getting different demo tapes, tens of demo tapes almost every day. So I was listening a lot of demo tapes there, sometimes with the Börje, and sometimes with the Jay, and sometimes with the Ace, and putting out that this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, this is good. What do you think about this? So a lot of these things was this, that we was discussing that it's good idea make this Scandinavian attack number one. And then Börje was figure out that he liked to have a picture where is some kind of war or Scandinavian Vikings or this kind of things. And because he's living in Stockholm, the Vikings idea is extremely important, or partly you can see it. I mean, I driving Valhalla Vägen every day, Valhalla Street. So there is a lot of things what is named by the Vikings. So Vikings things in Stockholm is, you can read it every day in the street names or whatever. But in Finland, where I'm coming from, the Vikings was just a story in the history book. So the Viking idea and this kind of knowledge of the Vikings is basically area where I'm coming from is zero. But Börje was interesting about that, and Ace. So Ace and Jay, O's bass player in Fire in the Brain time, who was also moving to the Stockholm with us, they was going into different museums in Stockholm and looking for the pictures. So they find this picture what is in Scandinavian Metal Attack 1 and Scandinavian Metal Attack 2. Both of these pictures is paintings on the wall in the Swedish museum. So the first one is called Thor is Fighting the Giants. This is extremely big picture painting, maybe 5 meters, this kind of thing, and it's in a Swedish National Museum, hanging there all the time. So that's the idea how we was working with this Scandinavian metal attack. We was doing things with Börje to make this album ready. Börje was doing music in the studio with the bands. I met all bands sometime when they was in the studio, but I wasn't standing in studio when they was recording or mixing, because the point is this, that if you are, it's same with me, if I'm in the band, it's my holy place. If I'm doing something with the band, it's not open place. We like to do some things. It's our secret how we're doing things. We don't like to have a public people when we're recording. So I have never been in the studio and listening what they was doing. I met the guys outside in cafeteria or something like that. But I have met most of the bands in Scandinavian Attack 1 and 2. Yes.
Right now, talking about the Finnish language book about metal that recently came out, and Oz is included in it. What can you tell us about your participation?
Yeah, I know the Finnish book. It's something. We are in the beginning because we was in the beginning in the Finnish heavy metal. In that time, when we was living in Finland, it's only existing 5-6 bands, and as I was telling, we was living different places, so we sometimes met the other bands. For example, this 09, some festival where we was playing. But otherwise, we didn't have any connection with the other bands. But as I was telling in the beginning, early 80s, heavy metal was just in the growing level. It wasn't any major music in Finland. Still that time, the old rock and roll, like 50s, Elvis Presley, this kind of music was popular, and then started coming Finnish singing new wave punk music. So the heavy metal was really small part of the music system, and that we was feeling that also because sometimes we wasn't so popular because the heavy metal wasn't popular in that time. So we was part of this book, and it's after when we was leaving Finland, because the story about heavy metal in Finland from 80 to 83 when we existing in Finland, it's really short part because it's not existing so many bands. So we was just part of that when everything started. And then we move into the Sweden. So basically the funny thing is this, what is it? We have been helping Finnish metal, heavy metal popularity somewhere in the Europe or maybe in USA, doing that living in Stockholm. So our part in Sweden have been the major thing because we always have been making albums here. We have been signing the contract here. So we have been located in Stockholm. And same time, it's this funny thing that when they're talking about the Swedish heavy metal history, we are part of that too. But they can't say that the Finnish band is part of that. So because we are born in Finland, we started in Finland and moved to Stockholm, we are somehow between these two countries. We are not the Finnish band, but we are not the Swedish band, because we can't be a Swedish band because we are not born here. But we are Finnish band, but we are not living in Finland. We're living in Stockholm. But anyway, we was in the beginning of the whole story. So they was discussing with me. One guy was calling me, and we discussing these things that we was having this start. We was part of the starting point, but then we leave Finland and move to Stockholm. And then the other bands is coming after us, because we was the first one who was coming to Stockholm. And nowadays a lot of Finnish people Finnish band playing in Stockholm and Sweden and everywhere in the world. But that time no one was doing. We was the first.
Right now, talking about Fire in the Brain, the most famous album, it's still a historic album in the history of Oz. Fortune is one of my favorites, I have to tell you this. When did you record the album? What memories do you have of that experience?
It's simple like this. After the first album, because we was touring in Finland every weekend, and we have done that when we was cover band. And when we make the first album, the touring was getting more and more, which means that every weekend we was playing somewhere. We didn't have. I was going in school, I was studying university, and the rest of the guy was working, and then we was in the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we was playing somewhere. So the guitar player was getting tired first, because he was getting girlfriend and asked, can we someday be not playing in the weekend? And we was, why? Because that was our life. We like to play on stage. So he was getting pissed off to be around somewhere in the Finland, because we have done that 4 years. So he was leaving first, but he was a nice guy, because it was no angry moment. It was like this, that he don't like to do that anymore every weekend. So he was waiting that we was getting the other guitar player that he can jump out and leave the house. At the same time, our first bass player, what was my best friend, who was starting with this, winning a lottery. So much money that he can buy a motorcycle. And he buying the motorcycle, and he driving the motorcycle, and he was getting also this fucking thing. Maybe he liked to drive motorcycle in the one weekend, but he can't, because he was playing every weekend somewhere. So he was the second one to getting tired, because he liked to drive his motorcycle, because he was buying the motorcycle. And I was saying, yes, you can drive motorcycle. I was also buying motorcycle, but I haven't the need to leave the band to drive the motorcycle. I can drive the motorcycle and play the band, because it was my life to start this band. So he was also jumping same time. So we was forced to have new guitar player, new bass player. When we are in the top level after the first album, we have a lot of gigs to play, but we have guys who was jumping out because they are tired. So that's why we was finding the new bass player, JC Blade from Tampere, where I was studying. And then we was collecting guitar players, and it was taking a long time before we was getting the new lineup up. So I don't talk about this 1 hour about what happens when people is crashing with the motorcycles and what happens. But anyway, we was ending there that we could make this, and I was having contact with the Börje, and I was calling him, because in that time no internet. Nothing. So I have to call him, and I was saying that now I have a new lineup, and we're making new album, new songs. Everything is okay. We are back in the business. He said, good. You're playing shows? I said, yes, we're playing shows in Finland. Okay. And that time we were starting to write the new songs, because we was figure out that we're making a new album, what we was calling Fire in the Brain later on. So JG Blade had some songs, and our guitar player have some riff. So we was doing the similar way as we have done all the time in the 80s. We are in our rehearsals studio, and we playing the song as long that we getting that in level that we can go in studio. We know this is part 1, this is part 2, and we sing it this like this. So we was making songs to the Fire in the Brain, and then I was calling the Börje, and I was saying that now we have even songs and a new lineup with the new lineup. So life is great. And he said, I like to see you playing live. And the Trash, the other band in his record company, was having playing live in Stockholm. So he decided that we're going to be the supporting act to the Trash in that concert, so he can see when we're playing. So it was simple. We was putting our things to the car and driving to Stockholm, and we was playing as a supporting act for the Trash. And after the concert, we was going out one rock bar, drinking beer, and decided with the Börje that we do the next album. And I think 1 month after that, we was entering the new studio for Oz, the Electra studio, and we was working there, I think 3-4 weeks. We was recording everything, mixing everything, and when we was leaving the studio, the album Fire in the Brain was ready. That's the story with the Fire in the Brain.
Now going forward with the next album, JC Blade talked in an interview that I read about the huge problem with the album Third Warning. Tell me a little bit about what happened there, because I know that there were problems about this album.
Yeah, as I was telling, we was doing this Fire in the Brain, and we was doing Fire in the Brain like this, that we producing that together. And in that time, we didn't understand what means producing, but producing was this, that we was there in studio, and we were discussing with the Börje Forsberg and also the also the Seppo Johansson, who was engineering, and Ace was also there and discussing. So the point is this, that the sound of the Fire in the Brain and how we was playing and ideas we was doing in the studio on the fly. And we was happy with this, but because the other band was having this Max Norman as a producer, and we have this idea that the guitar sound with Randy Rhoads it's great, and we don't have this guitar sound in our guitars in the Fire in the Brain. So that was the idea, that we have this kind of idea that if we have a producer, the producer making the album sounds better. We didn't think that we need any help to write songs or this kind of things. We was actually after the guitar sounds with Max Norman. And I was telling this to the Börje before we were starting doing after the Fire in the Brain, we was doing this Turn the Cross Upside Down. It was the first song what we was recording. We was recording that in Stockholm, recording in the winter. And the summertime we will start discussing that now we have the songs to make the new album, and we're going to do this. And we was getting no. Börje was thinking that this wasn't a good idea to buy really expensive producer to doing things, and he thinks we don't need it. And I said, we need it. And he said, no. And it was ending this, that we don't need it. And if we're going to do album, we're going to do as we was doing Fire in the Brain, or we don't do anything. And you understand, we have been moved from Finland, living in Stockholm, and after 1 year, record company leader is saying that we don't do anything if we don't do as he's saying. So that was the time when the devil horns started coming up. So basically he was putting me down and saying that now is he who is design what we're doing, and you have nothing to say about it. And of course I was telling this to guys in the band, and feelings wasn't so good. But then I could discussing with him that, okay, we do this, but we're getting more time in studio. We have to think one thing, that in that time, being in studio cost extremely lot of money. It wasn't cheap to be in the top-notch studio as Elektra was, and standing there 1 week. I don't know how much it cost, but it cost a lot of money. So it wasn't cheap to be there. So you don't waste time and not doing anything. So you like to do a lot of things when you are in studio, because it's a lot of money what this costs. So that was the story, how we start to do things there. And we're doing everything more carefully. We are happy with things. Everything is fine. We are staying long time that compared to Fire in the Brain. We're recording a lot of things there. And then we have only few things left. We're planning to do maybe 1 week in studio or something like that. And then it's coming this funny story. Well, it's not funny, but now it's funny. But in reality, it wasn't so funny at all. Börje, we're meeting in studio, and he's coming, and we were smoking. I was smoking, and other guys, and Börje, we were smoking cigarettes, a lot of cigarettes in that time. So he's coming smoking cigarette, and he said that he probably get some kind of catch cold or something. He's a little bit cough and like this. He have pain in his throat and like this. So that's not good. So he's showing me that I was buying in a bottle of cognac. It's probably helping when I drinking coffee and putting a little bit this cognac in the coffee. And of course I said, that's a good idea. Clever person. Probably your throat is getting better. So that's the starting point. So we recording. We are happy. We're recording guitars and songs and background vocals of that guy. But this fucking cognac is getting to effect. It's not the first thing. It's not the first hour. It's not the second hour. But he was having a big cognac. So when the cognac was giving the effect, he never explained this to us. But he was actually planning, and he was going the Cannes in Emiden. Not Cannes, Smeden. because there was this kind of, every year there is this kind of meeting for the record companies and all kind of music business, and he was planning that he going there, and he liked to have O's album recorded and mix it when he's entering there, but he never told us that in studio. So he was having this thing that he's busy, and then he getting this fucking cognac with me, he's getting drunk, and then the horns is coming up. Yes, the devil horns again, and now it's bigger. It's ending this that he's telling to us, everyone in the band, what he was telling me. He is a record company owner, and he designed exactly everything what happens here. If we have something to say against him, there is a door. Please close the door outside of the door. Go out of this fucking studio if you don't accepting what we're doing. So we was recording guitar solos and singing and a lot of things extremely fast. And part of the things what we was planning to record never been recorded because Börje was saying that this is good. And we were saying, no, but it's missing, there's nothing missing. I feel this is perfect. So that was the ending story. We was working in the night, and in the morning, 3-4 a time, everything is done, and he said, thank you very much, boys, you can go home. And we was going home, and he jumping in the cab and driving away. That was how the recording ending. And later on, he was calling me, and he said, yes, now the album came out, please come to my office. So we go into the office. He was giving one copy of the third warning for everyone, and he said, this is it, this is one of the best what I have done. And we was wondering, yes, how it sounds, because we didn't be part of the mixing either, because he was also mixing that by himself, because he kicked O's out in this last night when we was in studio. So he was playing the album, and we was listening this, and everybody's wondering, what the fuck is this? Because it didn't sound as we was accepting. It wasn't what kind of mixing we was planning. So we was going home and said, thank you very much. And then we go home and listening there and realized that, no, this is the new style of what is made by Börje Forsberg. We have nothing to do. We have been recording things, but we have nothing to do with the general sound of the album. And that was the story. And then we also missing this tour half year after that or something with the third warning. So we can say this was not so good time living in Stockholm and playing in the band Oz.
Where do names like JC Blaze, Spooky Wolf, Speedy Fox and Ape de Martini come from? Because they are pretty unusual names.
No, yeah, but the point is this, that our Finnish name, my Finnish name is Pekka Mark. My after name is Mark. So basically all of the real names what we have in Finnish, probably my name is the only one who people can read and say. Rest of the Finnish guys have this kind of Finnish names what is really complicated to people to say. And we realized when we was doing this Fire in the Brain that we should use English artist names that it sounds better and maybe have a better chance to be something in outside of the world. That's the reason why we was starting using this kind of English name, artist names, and of course when we was figure out these names, we was together with the band, and then I like to have this and I like to have this. So that was our own idea that it's the better because we was even the first album when we was in Sweden and recording that, and we was playing some gigs in Sweden. I mean, as I was saying before, the level how music life was in Sweden and how it was in Finland, it's not the same page, it's not the same book. It's total different things. Of course, we was figure out that maybe we can move to Sweden and live there and do as the Swedish band. Because going back from Sweden to Finland, it was like this: that you're coming from your dream back to the night dream. So the point is this: that's why we was planning to have when we make this the second album, that we probably going to play in more in Sweden gigs. We didn't think about directly that we moving to Sweden, but we was planning this, discussing, because I have seen actually letter what I was sending to the Börje, where I explained that we planning to move to Sweden. So the idea was coming during the recording time when we was recording this album. We was discussing about this, and I believe Ace was also part of this discussing. So during the recording in the Fire in the Brain, we started planning that maybe we can move to Stockholm and live here. Life is much more fun in Stockholm compared the places where we was living in Finland. So somewhere there we was getting also the idea that we start to use name what is not Finnish name, what is in English name, and it's much easier for the people around the world. Because of course, when we was recording Fire in the Brain, and when we was mix it for Fire in the Brain, and when the album was ready with its cover, it was still zero contact around the world. But we was having the feeling, also the Börje was having the feeling, that this album is so good that probably he can sell license contract with this album outside of Sweden and Finland. So we was preparing the possibilities that we also start selling this album outside of Scandinavian. And that's why we was doing this thing. And actually that happens. So we was prepared as I'm discussing, but nothing was sure. It was just our dream and discussing. But everything that happens during 3 weeks after releasing the album.
Yeah, it's understandable. Now I understand many things.
You understand, Börje Forsberg didn't have any contacts outside of Sweden before Fire in the Brain album. Fire in the Brain album make all his contact in outside of Sweden. Because the point was this, that in that time record companies was sending records in different companies around the world and say, look what we have. He was also getting a lot of albums everywhere in the world, and look, can you help us to get this release in Sweden? So he was sending this because he was part of his office was in this Elektra, and Elektra was having contract with the American company RCA. So basically he was getting contacts where to send these albums, and the albums, the music of the album cover and the music in the album was made that people was contacting Börje and saying, we like to release this. It's not Börje's contact. He was getting all contact with Fire in the Brain album.
Wow, that's crazy. Even
that's the point. That's the point how it was working. And we was also with our first album, what we was make in 1982. We was the first band in Börje's company who was coming outside of Sweden. So we was making pioneering work together in that point, in that sense.
Yes.
So everything starting with this that he was doing some kind of Swedish dance music, this old-fashioned dance music. But then he was shifting to the rock music because the rock music was getting more popular in Sweden, not in Finland. And he was starting with some rock bands, but we was the first heavy metal band or hard rock band, and we was coming from Finland. And we was the first Finnish band who was signing contract in this kind of music, who was signing contract in the outside of Finland. That's the story, historical story.
Right now, talking about Spooky Wolf that passed away in 2013, what can you say about him? What are your best memories with him?
He was the guitar player who is actually cousin of the singer of the Trash. And the point was this, as I was telling, we was visiting Börje in Stockholm, his record company. We was doing some radio interviews or something, and we didn't have any guitar players. We was just having the bass player JC played. So we were still playing gigs in Finland. But JC was playing bass, and Kari, the first guitar player, is playing guitar. So we was looking to guitar players, but it not existing so many. So we was in Stockholm in Elektra Studios visiting Börje, because the Elektra Studio was the same building as his office, and Trash was doing the first album. He was saying that he was making Trash, Swedish band Trash, they making album. So they was making the album before the Fire in the Brains, but they was doing the album after this our first album, because Börje was moving to the rock music in that time. And we was discussing with this Tony, who was singing in the Trash. He's also born in Finland but living in Stockholm, and he was saying that he have a cousin who is good guitar player. He will call him, and maybe he's interesting, because in that time you have to know people, you have to know the telephone number, because there wasn't no advertisement pages anywhere that guitarist is I'm playing guitar, take me in the band. So that's why we contacting in the Spooky. We was collecting people. I was living in Tampere, so I was collecting all guitar players in Tampere, and we didn't find it. The guitar player who was playing with the JC Play, they have a band. He was also planning to come to the Oz, but then he was getting possibility to start study, so he didn't like to put so much money time for the playing in the band, because, as I was telling before, we was playing every Friday and Saturday. Every Friday and Saturday. If you like to have free time from your school, the free time is in touring with the Oz. I was doing that, but he didn't like to do that. So the trouble was this, that it wasn't so easy to find guitar players, and we get contact with the Spook, and we're now discussing with him, and he coming to the Nakkila, this little place where we were rehearsing, and he was thinking that it's interesting. He can start to play guitar. So that's the story. He was a nice guy, a little bit shy. And he was being, as everyone, he had been playing in different bands, but nothing what was big enough to make albums or whatever. So he was the first choice. Then we have the Speedy Fox. We had been playing before him, but he was driving with his motorcycle and broke his hand. So it was outside the story, but because the time was going on, we contact him and realize that he can play guitar after this broken his hand. So then we take him as the second guitar player. So that was how we can keep connecting Spooky, and he was a nice guy. Okay.
Yes.
No trouble with him.
The album Burning Later came out in 2011 and was produced by the very famous and brilliant Nicke Andersson of Entombed. What was it like working with him?
Simple. The story about this is this. I stopped playing drums when we was putting Oz in the depot in 1991, and I start studying, and I getting working with the science. And when this part of my life working with the science was ending, I have to figure out what to do again. And because I have been playing drums, I was somehow contacting JC Played. I mean, when he was leaving the band in 80s, he was doing this really bad way. But the point is this, that when everything is getting after some years, you don't remember everything, and bad things is not so bad and good things is not so good. So basically I was just getting contact with him and asking if he's still making music, this kind of music what he was making Oz, because he was back from the USA, living in Finland, and and playing in Finnish pop music. So he said yes, he was doing, and he was sending two songs to me. One of the songs was Dominator, so I was thinking, okay, this is good. And I told him that I have to test if I can play drums, so I start rehearsing playing drums after 20 years, and it was going okay. And then I was calling also Ape and asking if he like to sing some songs, because our idea was just to make 1 or 2 songs recording in studio for good old times sake. So it wasn't in the beginning no idea that we're going to make album or who is playing. We was just planning that, okay, I can play drums, JT can play bass, Ape can sing, and then we hire some guitar players and we make 1 or 2 songs recording just for the fun. But then it's somehow developing faster, and we was getting more songs, and then we figure out that maybe we can make an album, and then we figure out that maybe he can play guitar, and then he can play the guitar. So then we getting this level that, okay, what we didn't done with the Börje Forsberg because of some lack of money, some lack of interest or something. Now we do it because we can do it. So we do as we like. And then I was talking with our tour manager here in Stockholm, and we realized, I said that this fucking time I like to have a producer. I think that if we going in studio without producer, if there is not the leader of the gang, it can happen whatever. So this group what haven't been playing together, if we go in studio, we need the producer, and then we figure out that Nicke Andersson is a good producer. Okay, drinking some beer and wondering, then we call Nicke Andersson, what about this? And he said, yes, he like to hear when we play. Okay, I say, after 3 weeks, we can hire in one studio and you can come and listen. Okay, I called the guys, the Oz, Ape, Jay, and these 2 guitar players in Finland, Markku and Kosti. Is it possible that everybody is coming after 3 weeks in this weekend to Stockholm? We play there in studio and rehearse it. Yes, everybody can manage it. So the guys is coming there, and we take Nicke there, so we can play 3 songs. We have Dominator, we have Season in the Dark, the 2 nude songs, and we can play Fire in the Brain. So we can play 3 songs together. We rehearse these 3 songs in the studio, and it sounds extremely good. So it was really fun to play together with the guys who can play guitars and sing. Everything is fine. The next day, Nicke is coming there, shaking hands. How is your life? Take a beer, have a catch. Shall we play? Yes, play. So we're playing first Fire in the Brain, then we play Dominator, and the last thing what we was playing is Season in the Darkness. So we play all 3 songs what we can. And as I tell you, when you're getting older, you're getting cleverer. I can say I have been much more clever now what I was in 80s. So I figure out that now it's a good time. So I was saying to Nicke, do you like that we're playing more, or can we talk to business? And he said, yeah, it's enough. We can talk to business. The funny thing is this, that if I say play more, then we have to play some of these 3 songs second time. So he had the idea that everything is okay because they can play. They was playing these 3, so we can go and discussing this. And we were saying that the story is this: we have played drums, Marco played guitars. The rest of the things is you. This studio where we are. This is the Kent studio. It's extremely good studio. Swedish band Kent owned that time the studio, so it's the high-level studio again. I say, here, make the album. Are you interested? I said yes. Talk the money business with our tour manager. Let's get over and we check our schedule when we can do. Then the story is there. Yes, that's the reason. And I can say afterwards, because again we have no time, but I mean I can tell 1 hour or write a book about this. The recording this Burning Leather and also making the video for the Dominator was that kind of circus. that it was really good that actually Nicke Andersson was as a producer, because in that time producer was the person who was designed what this solo is good, you singing this, you're not singing that. So he explained whole the time what we are doing. For me it was fun and easy thing, because I wasn't playing any drums there, a little bit extra, but most of the drums was played before. But he was really good in that sense that he was actually doing this, that we could make things working, because we old dogs was in that level that everybody knows how to do things, and we actually need the person who was the highest level and saying what everybody's doing. And there was several hard discussion. One of the discussion is this: Ape was singing something and he didn't like that it sounds good. So Nicke was saying to Ape that if you don't like to be here and sing, what the fuck you are here? Go home. That's the point. We play guitars this evening. Go home. Sleep with your children. To do what you like. If you're not happy when you're at studio, don't stand here. Go home. So he was going home. So that's the way how it was working. Okay, Ape was coming next day and he was happy to be in studio, but he was complaining something and he was getting home. So that's why we was getting Nicke Andersson.
And that's all for this second part of this interview. The last part will come out soon, so stay tuned. Subscribe, like and share, and click on the bell to receive the notification about my channel. Spotify and Apple Podcast for the audio version, and Instagram, Facebook and TikTok for more updates and news. See you soon, guys!